All right. Welcome to the initial Toke Pod podcast. Here with our pilot episode right now. So we got a lot of good things coming. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. So we're gonna get right into it. My name's Dennis. Been in the league for many years. We got a good league going, the Tokers Bowl. I've been a champion myself. Been in multiple championships. I'm here with Ryan and Nick. Ryan, you want to go ahead and give a little introduction?
Yeah, I'm Ryan. We like Dennis said, we've been doing this fantasy league for multiple years now. Dennis and myself are both multi-championship appearance players, with 2 wins for Dennis, 1 win for myself. So we definitely have some good experience trying to make it all the way to the finals. Sadly, my win-loss record in the championship is not great, but you know, if we go with a 33% chance of winning, that's Hall of Fame baseball numbers.
And Nick.
Yeah, everybody knows me as everybody's favorite commissioner. The job of the commissioner, it's the toughest job there is in the league. Definitely harder than winning a championship, that's for sure. Dealing with you guys on a week-to-week basis, year-to-year basis, definitely takes a toll on my ability to manage my team. But we all know I make the playoffs pretty much every year. Statistically, probably have the highest playoff rate. Everyone's favorite coulda, woulda, shoulda champion. But yeah, can't ever get to the game. Never mind win it. So I'll just keep doing me.
We're going to start off with a little discussion of last season. It was one of the closest seasons we've had. Every year we try to make it a little more competitive, a little more fair. We don't want people running away with it like we did the first year when I just created an absolute monster team. Still lost the championship as I usually do. But we've developed it into a league that it's a lot more fair. Last year we had a brand new winner and Tom. Every year we kind of see a new winner, which is nice to see. Nick came up with a rule change last year. You want to talk about that rule change, that kind of defensive switch up that we had?
Yeah, obviously like the goal is to try to make each position week in and week out as level and even keeled as possible. It's tough. I mean, obviously the quarterbacks kind of even out, and they're all getting points and whatnot. And there's always going to be the top guys at each position, but trying to make sure that those bottom guys are somewhat closer. And one thing that we saw the struggle with was defense. So just trying to add that. I know we a long time ago moved away from the defense losing points from yards given up. Obviously, the logic there is that if a defense gives up 99 yards and causes an interception in the end zone, that's still a pretty good defensive play. It gives your offense rest and whatnot. So going back to that and that logic is a defensive tackle for a loss. Great football play. Don't really see how it's any different than a sack, other than the fact that in a sack you get to hit the quarterback. But you're sending the offense back, and you're making a really good play for your team. So adding, we started with zero point 0.5 points for tackle for loss. Didn't want to make it crazy. Still wanted to kind of keep the sack as like the marquee play, but yeah, just another thing to root for, and when you see your defense, stuff running back in the backfield, you get a little extra bump. Again, Kirby, kind of our number cruncher, kind of put it through beginning of the season and in the preseason to see what it looked like, and it didn't make a huge change, but enough that it was like, hey, like it gives the defense a little bit more of a bump, a little bit more points there, and can kind of start competing with some other positions. So overall, I think it worked out really well, and we're just going to keep it the same this year and just get another sample size.
I agree. I like how it didn't change too much, but it gives you something to watch the defense. I'm not really going into the week saying like, oh, I can't wait to see how Texans defense is going to look. But when you're watching the games, it is nice to see a little bump, like, oh, I got a sack. It adds a little bit of flavor for the defense, which is usually lackluster in that aspect.
And usually, I mean, like Nick was saying, the whole point is to remove the gimmickiness of a position where so you can minimize the point discrepancy between, say, the 1 and the number 10 finisher. So by adding a little tackle for loss, we did see, based on previous year stats, and I think last year also confirmed it, that it kind of reduces that spread from 1 to 10. Some of the lower scoring points defense, they may give up more points to have lower overall points, but they get a lot of tackles, so that kind of bumps them up and kind of reduces that spread to squeeze all the teams closer together. But it does work.
Now, we'll move on to the hot topic issue of last season. A lot of debates happened around this. A lot of, fingers being pointed, blame being tossed around. A couple people almost left the league over this, but they came back. Um, so I lost a game last year by only a point, 2 or 3 points, and woke up Wednesday morning after or Tuesday morning after the Monday game, was pumped. I beat Jesse. I always like beating Jesse because we kind of have a back and forth going every year where like we barely beat each other. Getting on the John, looking at my fantasy, just overall feeling great about myself. Kirby wakes up at around 10:45 as he normally does, and I don't know what was going through his mind, but he just decided to immediately start dialing phone numbers, getting in touch with sleeper agents, people that are running the apps. I don't know what he had Mike doing behind the scenes with his coding or something, but end of the story is I ended up losing because Kirby reached out to every single person he knew in his contact list and above and got them to change the points. Kirby, can you just take us through what you were thinking and why you actually attacked me during the beginning of the season with such, collusion, as I would call it?
Yeah, so look, before I begin, let me just dial it back there and explain one thing. When Dennis was saying multiple people almost left the league, multiple people were angry and grabbing the torches and pitchforks, as you can tell by the end of what Dennis was saying, there was only one person that was acting like that, and that was Dennis himself, because he was negatively affected. But if to walk it through, I woke up and doing the same thing Dennis was doing. We look at the fantasy, see the next day, see all the changes. And when we went to bed on Sunday night or Monday night, we saw both teams have a final score. But when we woke up, there was a nice little stat change. And when we see stat changes are common but also rare in the sense where it has a big impact. And so we were curious, why was there a stat change? So I had to do a deep dive into what happened, and then on Reddit I saw that there was another incorrect stat change for, I believe it was Jalen Hurts at the time. I think he had incorrect rushing yards. I can't remember exactly what it was, but then doing a deep dive into trying to figure out why it was a defensive stat change. I had to look at the NFL game book to see what was the correct ruling on the points that were scored. So doing that, I saw that there was not one, but I think two incorrect numbers where the sleeper stat change was incorrect based on the game book. So there was a whole conspiracy inside of the fantasy apps that were all wrong because they all pull from basically the same place. So all I did is just shed light onto an incorrect number that these apps were using, and it may have negatively impacted Dennis, but that was never my goal. It could have been anyone. I'm just about the integrity of the league. That's it. I'm just with the numbers. The numbers don't lie.
And the league was just hoping that you kept that same sort of input into like fairness throughout the year. This is week 2 or something. As you can guess, we didn't really see it again. He put that kind of effort into a one time, seize this guy's opportunity. But it's okay. We have a back and forth with that. I'm in the championship all the time, so is he. He doesn't want to see me because I'll kill him. But yeah, just a little collusion. But
Just a little note from the commissioner's office. It was a non-starter. As you can see, there was only one person statistically eliminated from the playoffs heading into the last week of the season, and that was not today, Satan, Dennis Stevens, my co-host here on this podcast. So you can see it was a down year. I don't really appreciate Kirby throwing stones. The guy was already down, but it is what it is, and the commissioner's office looked into it, and there was no foul play.
All right, we got a lot to go through, so we're gonna cruise right past that. So yeah, 2022, great season coming up. This off season we saw a lot of changes for teams and players. Some noticeable changes. Devonte Adams is on a new team. Old wide receiver one. Uh, I personally don't really know how he's going to be. He demands a lot of targets, but he's on the Las Vegas Raiders with Derek, I wear I black car. So not really sure how that's going to go. We have Tyreek Hill going to the Dolphins. Shout out Titus, who will be appearing at the draft, thankfully. Not really sure how his addition of Tyreek Hill is going to do for his team, but I guess we'll see that. Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan, tons of new players going to different teams. So, I hope you did your research because if you didn't, it's going to be an interesting year, and I hope you don't think that Matt Ryan's still slinging for the Falcons because he's definitely not. You guys, who's a big name that you see switch up that you think is going to have a good year this year based on the new team they're on?
I mean, I think. Well, I guess to go back on some of the names that you were just saying, I mean, I'm way higher up on Devontae Adams than I am with Tyreek. I trust that Derek Carr will be slinging and throwing the rock way more than I trust to his potential noodle arm to even make it to a Tyreek deep ball. So I'm more skeptical of Tyreek until I see the Miami offense and how it works. But I don't think much is going to really change for Devontae Adams. I know it's on Aaron Rodgers, and that's a step in the downgrade, but I think the volume's still going to be there. We all know that Derek Carr likes to throw, so. Now with another weapon alongside Darren Waller, I just think they both help each other out.
Yeah, no,
Nick?
I agree. I am pretty high on Devontae Adams. I think he's one of those generational talents. It doesn't matter who's throwing him the ball. Obviously, I think he'll probably be a little bit of a step back. Aaron Rodgers, one of the elites, in compared to Derek Carr. But for me, sleeper, I think a little bit less talked about probably because the season ended last year with an injury. But I'm really liking Robert Woods on the Tennessee Titans. I just think with AJ Brown gone off to Philadelphia, it opens up that offense. He's a slot guy. Their running team, and it just gives that Robert Woods a kind of. I think he's going to be moving all over the field, and you're going to be looking at them to just be making moves and needing people to throw to. And I think is a guy who's been proven with his years. Looked pretty good with Matt Stafford early on, and and kind of doesn't need to be that number one guy. You saw him playing behind Cooper Cup last season, so I think he's a guy who's going to come back from injury and come back with a big season for the Titans.
And if I can add one more that's not a positional player, but if I know we'll get into it later, but speaking about the Chargers defense, um, I know defense is kind of a weird position, but they just bolstered up their internal line, defensive line with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. They got J.C. Jackson from the Patriots, who it's a great cornerback. I think he might be hurt right now, but I'm sure he'll be back soon. So that could be a defense, along with their high-powered offense, that could the defense could be giving the offense more opportunities. So that could just be even great for someone like Mike Williams, where he could fly past, his ADP and have some good performance this year.
Yeah, I agree. The defense can definitely take a big, impact to your offense. Sometimes if they're bad defense, you get more yards throwing. Sometimes if they're good defense, it's a closer game, so you get more in the running game. But those are some big names on that defense. I didn't even know that they had those guys added to them. So I'm super excited about the Chargers this year. They have a lot of fun players on their team, and their running backs, and their receivers, and their quarterback. So I'm definitely high on a lot of Chargers players. Moving on, we added a new league this year, the Friends and Family League. Ladies, we're looking at you right now. We wanted to get you guys involved. We wanted a reason that we could watch football for, 15 hours on Sunday, and you guys didn't just feel like you were, catering to us. So we're getting you guys involved. It should be fun. We do everything as a crew. So this is, why not do this? This takes up many, many months of our lives. So it only makes sense to finally have one. Nick, you probably know better than I do about orgasms. Would you like to discuss how you think Colby feels about the addition of the ladies into the group?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can take the words right out of her mouth. I think she did have one when she heard the addition of the Friends and Family League. So this is a long time coming. No pun intended, pun completely intended. Uh, we had a little bit of a rife way back when. I think it was going heading into year 2 of Toker's Lounge. Um, Feels like a decade ago. Um, but we were trying to keep it as something like for the boys. And Colby wanted in, and to Mike's credit, he stand up husband or fiance at the time, and he said, "Hey, if she's not in, I'm not in." And the guy didn't play year 2, so um, we're happy to have Colby. She definitely sits there and watches. Has the hardest time watching the Patriots games, sitting alongside Mike, our resident negative guy. And she definitely knows her shit. So I think she's an early front runner for the to take the Friends and Family Championship.
Now, Dennis talked about collusion earlier. I do think that this league has the highest chance for collusion. I don't think someone like Dennis could sit there and allow his wife to struggle. He will be maybe giving her a couple trades, or maybe he'll sweet talk her into sending him a nice little trade so he wins. So I think there's a little bit, we need to keep our eye on it.
Rumor coming across the commissioner's desk is she's already outsourced her team management to young Pierce over there. So
Oh, okay.
Well, I guess we'll see. We woke up this morning. We did 3 mock drafts. She was picking players that I really liked. She had a terrible pick in J.K. Dobbins. I'm not really high on him, but I just told her that was a great pick, and it allowed me to get some of my other players. So I think I'm actually going with the strategy of, put her down the wrong path, let her lose, let me win, get all the glory, and just take it for the household. That's just how I like to do things.
It is. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I do question for some people in the league. I guess from the male perspective, what feeds the ego more, them winning or having their significant other win?
That's a good question. It probably would feel better if my wife won the league after never playing and always saying that she hates football and she's never going to watch it, she can't support it, doesn't believe in it, they don't stand for the anthem. All the stuff she says, to watch her turn around and win the league, I'd probably be up there with the level of orgasm that Colby's having.
yeah, I'm not sure I share that enthusiasm over here, Dennis. That is not something I'm sure I can come back from. You know, we've all heard of Fishgate. I'm the only person here who hasn't caught a fish on my pond, so it's something I live with every day. I hear about it. It's one of the first things I hear. I think there's posters up in my house somewhere. I try not to go in those rooms, but yeah, I think I need to win this one.
Yeah, it's a pride thing right now, so we'll be all playing for it. Now, in our other league, our money league, the one with friends and family, we're doing for other bragging rights, and we have a couple of prizes for winners and outcomes for losers. But in our big money league, we are actually having a big change this year to a free agent acquisition budget. We've never done that before. I've been pushing it for a couple years now. Finally, I think we got on board with it to just try it out. Um, you know, Nick, what was going through your mind when you allowed that into the league, knowing that it's not a votes matter league, it's more of a dictator, I will do what I want league? Just what were you thinking when you allowed that in this year?
Yeah, I just think the first couple of years of the league. There was a bunch of turmoil. I was talking about Mike not coming in 1 year, and then we had some turnover with some different players joining and not sticking around, whatnot. And this year, I think we're going on year 3, or maybe even going on year 4, where we've had the same crew. So it's kind of made the whole process a little bit easier. People just being, yep, I'm in. Let's keep it going. Everyone's familiar with each other. We obviously got our core group, and then we have a great group of other people who are joining us. Maine, New Hampshire. We got Tom down in DC, running the world. So it just made it easier with the crew that we have to implement stuff. And I think this is a good year to just add a little spice. Um, We've had some really close years the last 2 years, and I think this will just make it, help make it a little bit more competitive. We've all seen the impact of having, the first three draft picks and losing those guys. And with COVID and having to change around roster spots, just makes it a little bit easier to be able to not have to hold on to handcuffs and be able to kind of take that risk and kind of bet against your own budget to be able to get those guys, and not have to hold certain handcuffs and whatnot for um, on your bench and take up that roster spot. So overall, I mean, it's definitely something like you said, you've brought up for a while, and I think is going to be a positive move and something that can just add some value and just spice up the league a little bit.
Kirby, any notes on that, or you want to move on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm historically I've been against it, but I am down to try something new. I'm actually now I'm just curious how it will play out and see. I think it actually will be the most interesting part. Will just be see how different league mates and see how their brains work when they go to a week-to-week waiver basis. As we know, we have some league mates that have a very negative mindset, a very stingy mind. There's some with a very stingy mindset. So we'll see how it plays out. And I do think if you see a gap in someone's team and you kind of know how they think, you may be able to manipulate some moves for your benefit if you can play your cards right. So I think it'll be a fun change.
And just a little asterisk note before we move on: these are fake internet dollars. They're not your real money, and you don't get paid back at the end of the year for unused. So, just with that being said,
We can make a side bet of I do think that there will be at least one person that may finish with their full fab.
Oh, there'll be multiple people. Will, Brandon, multiple people will do that. And on another side note, Jesse, you can't put these into any sort of investments to get more fab dollars as much as you want to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning when the stock's open. Fab does not change like that. You can't gain any. You can only lose them. Moving on, another big change this year. Um, I think this is a really interesting change. We talked about how the defense has always kind of been, gimmicky, a little. You get like two or three teams a year who play the Chicago Bears. They're getting me 25 points. It's might as well have another quarterback on the field. That person, even though their other players on their team sucks, their team pushes forward because they have this defense. So our resident number cruncher has looked into this, tried to find a way to manipulate it or add it, and he's had an idea of combining kicker and special teams and defense all into one for a couple of years now. I've heard about it, but he did some big number crunches this year. So Kirby, what did you see when you were combing through the numbers at 2 or 3 in the morning when we were all sleeping?
Well, that's when my brain shines, is the early hours of the day. So, um, yeah, I don't want to repeat exactly what I said about adding the points for tackle for loss, but it's the same kind of vibe here. Is trying to reduce the gimmickiness and reduce the spread of points from, say, finisher 1 and finisher 10. So basically what I did was take a look at the point spread from all the possible combination of defense, top 10 defenses and top 10 kickers, but 100 different combinations. Take the average of those differences, and we see that we had a higher point differential from the highest to the lowest than we do when you combine the top 10 defenses with their kickers. So that just shows that it will kind of even out the playing fields and add a nice little twist, because if someone hypothetically had the top one defense and top one kicker, they just blew the rest of the competition out of the water. There was really no chance for the other 9 to catch up. Not saying that would happen. Obviously, that's a good draft strategy if you had both one kicker and defense, but even the averages, the combination shows that it equals the playing field out and is more of equal ball game. And like I was saying, it does add some fun challenges, because if you're streaming defense or kicker, now you're streaming the whole package. If so your kicker goes down and you still, if you want to keep the defense, you're stuck with your backup, and who knows, it could be Fat Randy up there just shanking kicks. You don't know what's going to happen, and it just adds a little spice to the position that is usually somewhat neglected and kind of just thrown in there last minute and basically streamed for most people.
Nick, any final thoughts on the new defensive special teams?
Is Kirby done talking about taxes yet? No, I think overall it's a good move. I think, all the numbers aside, if you just look at logically, which has been the big push that Kirby's always had, it's called defense and special teams. The kickers are part of it. And it, I like the numbers. I like what it does. I think it just adds, again, just trying to add just those little changes, just see how they do. It could be something where we find it sucked. We roll it back next year. But I think overall, I think it's going to be a positive thing, and I think it will help kind of, even out and like we say, trying to get away from making it so that there's one or two positions that you're just like, oh, whatever, I'll throw whatever team in there. Like, if I get my 5 points, life is all good. And trying to just kind of stop that from happening and taking away just like one or two dominant players at a position. So
yeah, I mean the only real reason where it could be a potentially bad situation is if the number one defense also has like the number one kicker. So obviously that combination will be well above and beyond the rest of the field.
Yeah.
But overall, assuming that that's not the case, it does pretty much even out to equal the playing field.
Yeah, I mean, anything could happen any year, so I think it's a cool thing to add. We'll see how it goes. Add a little bit of difference in there. It's probably not going to make that big of a difference, and if it does, we'll move on from next year. So we got a lot of segments to get through, so we're going to take a quick break right now and hear a word from our sponsor. This podcast is something we do in our free time, so supporting our sponsors are great ways to give back to us to help us improve our product and bring you material that you guys want to hear. So we're going to move on to our sponsor. Are you sick and tired of being judged by both men and women while enjoying a free beverage? Fret no more. You can now knock out the haters with Seltzer, the answer to girly drinks. With badass flavors like Gorilla Grape, Patriot Punch, you'll find your inner primal while capturing a buzz. I first heard about this product, Seltzer, when I was a young fantasy aficionado, and I didn't know much about it, but ever since finding out about it, I have completely changed my mind on it. And we have a very, very special guest right now, the creator of Seltzer, Mr. Dry Kirby. Kirby, could you just take us through what you were thinking when you created Seltzer?
Yeah, well, this basically was at a time in our lives where seltzers were becoming more popular, but, the White Claws, the females have a monopoly on them. So if you were drinking a White Claw at the time, people were judging you. Why aren't you having a Bud Light? Why aren't you having a Bud Heavy? Why are you drinking a White Claw? You loser. So that's when the idea popped up. We're going to have a manly seltzer. It's going to pack a punch. It's going to be cool, badass, and delicious. And so we are going to take the drink world by storm and be judged no more.
Yeah, and I'm telling you right now, these things are great. You open your fridge, you crack a delicious Gorilla Grape. It makes you feel good. You smell good. It tightens your stomach. It tones your abs. It does it all. And it also has a great looking can. None of those girly white claw cans. It just does it all. So Seltzer, go to www.seltzer.com/tokepod for 25% off orders of $100 or more. That's Seltzer, SELTZIR.com/tokepod. All right, back from our sponsors, we're going to move into our first segment of the day, the fun stuff. We're going to start talking about actually fantasy things, not just our league, not just random stuff, collusion, all that jazz. We're getting into some fantasy. So our first segment is going to be called Live or Dennis. We're going to compare two players, one on the young side, one on the old side, and discuss who we'd rather have this year on our fantasy team. So first up, we're going to go with CeeDee Lamb, who is 23 years old, or Deebo Samuel, 26. And I know it's only a 3-year gap, and everyone's asking, why is it called Live or Dennis? Because they're 15, 16 years apart. But, in the fantasy world and in, sports in general, 3 or 4 years can actually make a pretty big difference. There's a big difference between a 26-year-old running back and a 30-year-old running back. So we're going to go with CeeDee Lamb or Deebo Samuel. We'll go over to Nick first. Who would you rather have here?
I like CeeDee Lamb, the young guy. I like Liv. We all like Liv more than Dennis. Um, let's just get that out of the way. CeeDee Lamb's the guy. Amari Cooper's gone. They still have a solid offensive line. I think Dak Prescott is a pretty good quarterback. I like him more than Debo's options. I know Debo has the running aspect, but um, I don't know. I'm just not high on the 49ers this year.
Kirby?
Yeah, and if I could add to that, I mean, my team name last year was CD's nuts. Okay, so I am a big CD guy. I am worried about Debo this year. Yeah, a lot of his performance was based on his rushing. Now they have Trey Lance instead of Jimmy Garoppolo. Trey Lance may step into some of that rushing role as more of a mobile quarterback. I do think the 49ers want to reduce his rushing so he doesn't have the wear and tear as a rusher and can kind of focus more on the traditional receiving. I mean, he was put in the rushing position due to injury last year, and hopefully those traditional running backs are back. So I do see a year of regression. So yeah, I'm also with Nick here. I'm Team Liv, and I'm a big CD guy. I think he's gonna have a good year. Hopefully the Cowboys can figure it out.
I'm going to have to agree with that. I'm also live on this. I just don't see Debo continuing to do what he did last year. And, the fact that CeeDee Lamb is now the only target really available for Dak Prescott. I'm high on Dak Prescott this year. Um, the only thing I kind of worry about is that offensive line. They lost a massive, massive offensive lineman recently. And the statistics show that when he is not in there, the run game hurts. And when the run game hurts, they know you're passing. They'll put people in a double coverage. So it'll be interesting to see now that he is the only target. Will they just, have a safety over the top of him, shutting him down? Um, even saying that, though, I still would take CeeDee Lamb over Debo Samuel. I've never been into Debo. I don't know what it is. I don't think I'm going to have him on any of my fantasy teams this year. So definitely go and live on this one. Um, Next, Allen Robinson, 29 years old, Old Faithful, or some would call him, or Jalen Waddle, 23 years old, 29 or 23. Kirby, we'll go to you first for this one. Who would you rather take, Allen Robinson or Jalen Waddle?
No, I'm a believer in old Father Time here. I'm Team Allen Robinson. I've always been an Allen Robinson fan. He's just had to suffer through terrible quarterback by terrible quarterback, and he still is a great receiver who has produced given the circumstances. Now he has a little bit more arm talent. Yeah, there's maybe more competition around him, but I think now is his chance to shine. And like I said, I'm nervous about the Dolphins. I know Waddle's a good receiver, but now with Tyreek there, he may get, have a downgrade as well, especially with Tua. So I'm Team A-Rob, baby.
All right, so you're going with Dennis on that one.
I'm a Team Dennis.
Nick?
Yeah, I'm going back to the fountain of youth with the Liv. I couldn't disagree more. I think Allen Robinson has every opportunity in a lot of different places to shine, and I don't really feel like he ever does.
He's been a second tier fantasy guy from a fantasy perspective, and I think a third tier guy from a football perspective. I'm not huge on him, even though he's a Penn State guy, which I respect. Jalen Waddle, I think, is going to have a big season. I think Tyreek Hill is a big ad for him in his performance. I don't think you can discount what we saw with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, the college connection, especially with these young guys. They've just had those years to play together. We didn't see it as much with Jalen Waddle and Tua, but I think kind of getting past the massage table on this one, sticking with Tua, going with Tua as their guy, and then having Tyreek Hill. He's just a once in a generation talent with his speed and his ability to catch the football. He makes defense have to play different. We've seen it for years, and we've seen a lot less talented guys than Jalen Waddle perform really well in the Kansas Chiefs offense. because of Tyreek Hill. So I think Jalen Waddle is going to have a big year, and I think it's got a lot to do with having Tyreek Hill and Tyreek Hill having to take kind of some of the better corners, as well as defensive just having to play him differently.
Yeah, I guess I'll break the tie. I'm going with Allen Robinson. I agree with a lot of things Nick just said. I think Jalen Waddle's fantastic. The addition of Tyreek Hill is going to take a lot of pressure off of him, open up some things. But I question Tua's decision to check down twice before he runs. I think he might look towards Tyreek, see it's not open, decide to run out of the pocket, and then it's either you run or you pass it to your running back out of the backfield. So I'm going with Allen Robinson. I think he's had a lot of down seasons recently. He's been kind of that guy that everyone's like, okay, he's a leader now. Is he going to take off? But I think he fits better into this Rams offense. They have a gunslinger. Obviously, last year's season they did fantastic, and Cooper Kupp. I mean, arguably a bigger target than Tyreek Hill. So I think he will demand the defense. I think Allen Robinson's going to get those checkdowns, much like Robert Woods did. We saw Woods and Kupp both succeed when they were on the Rams. So he's getting old, but I think Allen Robinson is a better receiver than Robert Woods. He's a bigger target. He's faster. And I think that he has that chip on his shoulder where he has something to prove. Will OBJ ever come back to that team? I have no idea. But I think Allen Robinson's going to have a good year, so I'm going with Dennis on this one.
News came out this morning. He's in talks with the Patriots.
OBJ.
Yep.
Oh, here we go. Gonna get ourselves another AB on the team, farting on doctors and stuff. Anyways, moving on. We're gonna go with Michael Thomas or Jerry Jeudy. Thomas, 29. Coming off of a couple years of injury, and Jerry Jeudy, the young guy over in Denver, new quarterback. Fantastic season last year. Nick, who are you going with this one?
I don't think this is much of a debate here, honestly. I think this is the easiest one. I think it's Jerry Jeudy. I think Jerry Jeudy will be having a massive season. I think Michael Thomas right off the bat. I mean, is Jameis healthy? I don't even really know their quarterback. I think that team, the Saints, I think they're playing in a tough division. I think there's some good defenses over there, and I think Michael Thomas is there's something wrong, physically, mentally, both. Not seeing him after a massive season. I think in the last 2 years after he set the reception record, is a big hit for him. And Denver, I think they're going to look good. Russell Wilson, he's a guy who comes in and changes not only a team from a football's perspective, but a locker room. He's a great locker room guy. I think they're returning 2 unbelievable running backs. So there's options. And then along with Cortland Sutton, who's I think is going to be kind of that outside threat. Jerry Jeudy fits right in alongside Speedster, another Penn State guy, KJ Hamler. So I think that team is going to really thrive and air it out. And I think Jerry Jeudy, I think you see him kind of fall into a role for Russell Wilson as being that Tyler Lockett guy.
Kirby?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I do agree with pretty much everything Nick said. I think this one is the easiest decision of the two. As much as I love Jameis Crablegs Winston eating the W's and think he's a gunslinger and could fit well with Michael Thomas, something about Michael Thomas is just not right. Whether his body's breaking down or the mental isn't there to power through injuries. I don't really trust Michael Thomas, and I'm Team Dangerous this year, and I think that the Broncos could have a nice little high-powered offense. I know with the Seattle, some of the talk of the town was that Russell is becoming more of a running team quarterback, not throwing as much. But I think with the high altitude, he'll be high on life, and I think he'll be enjoy throwing the ball. Especially he just got a new contract addition, so they obviously like what they see, and he must like being there. So I do agree. I think Sutton will be a good outside numbers guy, but I think if that isn't working for him, Judy's always going to be there for the kind of slot role, and I think the both of them are going to be primed for a good year.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't even know why we put this into the subject. Michael Thomas, plagued with injury. Jameis Winston. There's just nothing that you want to like on that team besides Alvin Kamara in my mind. I just don't. It's not the team it was when it had Brees, and now the Broncos have Russell Wilson, candidate for MVP quarterback almost every year he's in the league. And the Tim Patrick injury on Denver, I also think, is going to help Judy out a lot. Um, it really opens up targets for him. Tim Patrick, big 6'4" guy. There were a lot of talks of him having a big year this year, and now that he's gone, it's basically just Judy and Courtland Sutton. I'm extremely high on the Denver Broncos offense this year, receiving wise. I hate their running backs, but I think that Jerry Judy's going to have a good year. And I also think Russell Wilson's going to have a massive year. So I'm excited to see him in that orange. I definitely am excited to see him. Moving on, we're going to go to some running backs now. Dalvin Cook, 27 years old, or Najee Harris, 24. We'll go to Kirby for this one.
Yeah, this one is actually tough for me to make a concrete decision. I was looking at it, going back and forth. I don't know. I think I'm gonna go Team Live here. Team Najee. I think Dalvin Cook will have a good year. He had a great year last year. I'm a little bit nervous about the Steelers' offense. I don't trust any of their quarterbacks, but it's like the old, kind of fantasy fallacy. Maybe if you have a bad quarterback, they rely on either the handoff or the little, dump off passes to Najee, who last year did have a lot of receptions. So maybe they're going to rely on him heavy again. He's still young. It's his second year, so he still has those fresh legs where he can kind of take that workload, and is not at the point of like Christian McCaffrey where he started breaking down. So I think I'm gonna go Team Live here in Najee, and have hopes that the Steelers will be competent enough to at least score some points.
Nick?
Yeah, I think I'm going Team Live as well. I had Dalvin Cook on my team last year. I was high on him last year. I didn't feel like he performed to his level. I think they really like to give other people the ball in the red zone. So from a fantasy perspective, I hate Dalvin Cook. He's a next segment guy. He's a doghouse guy for me. So I can't go with him. I like Najee Harris. I'm pretty high on him. I was listening to some segment. I'm gonna botch it, and I don't even remember exactly what it was. But there was like three characteristics of a top running back every year for fantasy. There was two guys last year who fit into that role. One of them's name was Jonathan Taylor. There's only one guy this year and that fits into that, and his name is Najee Harris. And it's something to do with age, usage rate, and whatnot. So I like Najee Harris. I think he's going to have a good year. And I think when you look at that Steelers offense, it's hard not to imagine a world where they're not running the ball a lot and trying to get the ball out of their hand quick from their quarterback. So I think it's going to be a year where you're going to see him probably lead the league in touches as long as he stays healthy. And I think Pittsburgh pretty much always has a pretty good run attack. So I like Najee Harris here.
I'm just going to keep it quick. We got a lot to get through, but I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook on the stipulation that he plays at least a minimum of 14 games. I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook. I think they have a great offense, a lot of red zone opportunities. Hopefully they're going to rework their decision who to give the ball to in the red zone, but I think he's going to have a good year. I don't trust the overall Pittsburgh Steeler offense. I don't trust their quarterback. I much rather put my faith into the Vikings here. So we're going to try to breeze through a couple of these next ones just because, we are running a little bit late. So Zeke Elliott or Josh Jacobs, I'll take it for this one to start off. I am definitely not going Team Zeke. I'm going Team Live, Josh Jacobs. Now, I'm not super high on either of these guys, but like I said earlier, I don't trust the offensive line for the Dallas. They lost a massive, massive lineman. And if you look at the numbers, when that guy's not in, they're not getting a running year. Zeke has had many off years. He's projected number 1 or 2 for many years now and hasn't even come close to that. I think he's like a round 2 or early round 3 pick now. And even that, I'm just avoiding him in drafts. I would rather take Josh Jacobs, the young guy. I think that the Devontae Adams pickup is going to open up a lot of looks from defenses that are not going to be stacking the box anymore. So I think he's going to have a good year. He's a young guy. Derek Carr likes to look down at his eye black, so hopefully he'll be looking down on checkdowns, give him the ball a little more when they're double covering Devontae Adams. So I'm definitely going team live on this one, Josh Jacobs. Nick?
I agree with you. I'll keep it quick. I think Zeke is going to have a bounce back year. I think he's going to have a solid year. I think I'm a little higher than him on most. But I think Tony Pollard, they love him. He's going to keep eating into his workload. And Josh Jacobs, I do think is going to thrive, having a little bit less of a workload. Where I think they're going to air it out with the additions of Devontae Adams and the other weapons they have in the wide receiver and tight end positions. And I don't really even know who Josh Jacobs' backup is. So.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. The Tony Pollard thing is another reason. Yeah, they're just going to be putting him on third downs, checking down to him. It's just Kirby. Let me hear your answer.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same as you guys. I think Josh Jacobs' backup is something rookie that they're pretty excited about. Everything you said, I agree with. I do question why in a lot of ADPs Josh Jacobs has fallen so much. I don't know what is happening where people think that. So maybe I'm missing something. That maybe this is stupid, but yeah, I'm not trusting Zeke. I think I'm actually avoiding both of them. But if I have to choose, I'm team live, and I kind of want those big names to, catch someone's eye so they fall for the trap. While I kind of scoop up someone under the radar that I think will outperform both of them.
Yeah, you
Is
took the words out of my
McDaniels
mouth.
is McDaniels running their offense, or they have an OC?
I'm not sure
I
about
don't
that.
know exactly, but I would imagine he's probably heavily involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why else would you have the guy? All right, we're going to skip over the next quarterback. We're just going to go to one quarterback now. It's going to be Kirk Cousins or Trey Lance. 34 Kirk Cousins or 22 Trey Lance. Nick, let me hear you a couple words about that.
Jeez.
I think this is a little trickier.
I think this is the hardest one we've done.
Yeah.
I'm a resident. I can't stand Kirk Cousins. I think he sucks. He always just does enough to not suck and just to justify, or not really justify his contracts, but he always does just enough. I like Trey Lance. I think he's. I like his situation. I think that what's his name? Drawing a blank on the coach.
For who?
Kyle Shanahan.
Kyle Shanahan. I think he's going to put him in a situation to thrive. And I think, especially from a fantasy perspective, I think you're going to see Trey Lance, as long as he's healthy, running the ball a good amount. He's gonna go to his feet when he feels in trouble, and I think we've seen that with someone like Jalen Hurts, where that turns into a strong fantasy, points and a strong fantasy get as far as a quarterback position.
Kirby?
Yeah, I think I'm going Kirky here. Captain Kirk. I like Trey Lance. I agree with Nick. I think it could be an exciting season, but I think there's still some question marks. It's really basically his redshirt rookie year, so we'll see how he actually performs. They just signed Jimmy Garoppolo to be the highest paid backup, so maybe they're a little nervous his potential longevity if he's rushing the ball a lot. They just want a big insurance plan. I think I'm just going to go with middle of the road Kirk. Dennis.
I'm definitely going Trey Lance on this for most of the reasons Nick said. I think Trey Lance has a chance to hit 800 or 1,000 yards rushing this season, and if he does that, he could arguably be a top 5 quarterback in the league, fantasy wise. Will they lean on him to do that? We've seen the running quarterback dilemma where you get hurt. We got Robert Griffin III. He can't play a full season, but I think if they let him run and he can do the things that we saw him do in college, I really think he could be a fantasy monster, especially where you're grabbing him. I think he could outperform Jalen Hurts, and he's falling a decent ways past him, 4 or 5 picks beyond him, which is a lot when you're talking about QBs in fantasy. So I'm definitely going Team Live on this one. Trey Lance is my guy. Trey Lance is my new Jalen Hurts. I hope he falls. I never pick quarterback early because you get these guys at the end, and he's a guy that I have on my target list. If I was going to pick him, I'd probably have a backup just because there's a lot of uncertainty, but I think Trey Lance could have a monster year. All right, so we're going to skip on to our next segment. Real good
Can I
one.
just jump in and add one
Yeah,
last
yeah.
one there? Tom Brady versus the field. Tom Brady versus the average. This guy is 45 years old. This is the closest Dennis Live we could possibly have out here.
Oh my, he wasn't even born. When he started in the league, Liv wasn't even born.
So, do we think this is going to be the year? Are we talking cliffs this year, or is Tom Brady he's going to fall right back into his old ways? And is he going to beat the league average, I guess? The Tom Brady versus the league average of quarterbacks?
He's ageless. I don't see him falling off. The only thing going to stop him, and I don't even want to talk about it, but it's some sort of injury. And God forbid that happens. What is there to tell us that he's going to have a worse year? He's been rising every single year. He's thrown for 5,000 yards when he's freaking 10,000 years old. It doesn't even make sense. So yeah,
I mean,
I don't think he'll fall off. His team is unbelievable too.
if he does outperform the average, there have been recent allegations that he just had new plastic surgery on his face. If he beats the average, we may need to actually cut him open and see if there's been any sort of biomechanical insertions into his arm and legs, because there's no way he should be able to still outperform the rest of the field. But I love him to death, so I hope he does.
Yeah, he's one procedure away from becoming handsome Squidward. So we'll see how that does for him. Moving on to the next segment. It's the doghouse segment. Everybody knows doghouse. Big bulldog fans out there, let me hear your growls. But this is a player who didn't perform last year. They, had a lot of hype, a lot of big talk about him, but their numbers didn't show it in fantasy. So this year, will it be a bounce back year, or will they be quote unquote in the doghouse again this year? So we're going to go on to our first guy, A.J. Brown. He's got a new team, what I think is a better QB. Their run game, it's not the greatest. He's shown that he can be the guy, but I mean, if you look at his numbers last year, he had, 3 games with 20 points, and all the rest, 4.3, 4, 9, 4, 2. Those numbers are not numbers you want when you're seeing where this guy's drafted. So we're going to go to Kirby, the resident doghouse aficionado, a guy who spends more time in the doghouse than he does up late at night. Kirby, what do you think about A.J. Brown this year?
I like him. I think there's some obviously concerns with his potential injury, but I always like when receivers go to a new team, especially with a young quarterback that has some potential. It could be good and could be exciting offense to watch. So he's out of my doghouse this year to start.
Nick?
I agree. At a doghouse, I think Jalen Hurts changes the way a defense has to play with the legs, and his, ability to use the legs and willingness to use the legs. So it kind of keeps that defense has to keep them in check, kind of opens up the field a little bit. And then I think Devontae Smith helps stretch the field with him as well. So out of the doghouse.
I agree. The new team is going to help him a ton. Whenever anyone thinks of Tennessee, they're thinking of one player, and it's Derrick Henry. He gets all the red zone targets, and how can you not give it to him? So I think he's going to be a big increase in his points back to what we used to see in his first 2 seasons. I mean, first 2 seasons, it was about an average of 170 points, and last year it was 118 for the season in PPR. So I don't see him having a bad year. I think you should be looking towards A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league to watch. He does it all on his feet, throwing, opens it up, much as like Nick said. So I definitely think A.J. Brown has gotten him a ticket out of the doghouse, and I think we're going to see good things from him again this year. Moving on, Juju Smith-Schuster, a guy that, he had that 1 or 2 seasons where it was like, holy crap, this guy's insane. Is he the next Tyreek Hill? And then, last season he was not that great. I think he played 5 games. He had an injury, but he's on a new team. Pat Mahomes. I mean, the guy does it all. He throws with his eyes closed. He's throwing behind the back passes. There's nothing he can't do. And I do believe Juju Smith-Schuster is a great athlete. So, Nick, what do you think about him this year? Is he out of the doghouse, or is it going to be another year of him eating gruel?
I think definitely out of the doghouse as well. Again, I think the change of teams helps him, like you mentioned with AJ Brown. I think the number one glaring thing here is the Pat Mahomes effect. None of his receivers perform badly. They all have their games. They all get to eat at one point. I think they have not a single definite standout there with Valdez Scantling and Hardman, but I think he could be the guy. I think one of them will be the guy. I actually think Valdez Scantling will end up being their top guy, but I think Juju Schuster-Smith will absolutely get his. He's a middle guy. He plays in the slot. He's comfortable catching balls over the middle. And when you have Travis Kelce playing in that similar role, who are you going to pick up first? You're going to pick up Travis Kelce, once in a generation tight end. And I think that is going to open a lot for him. So him out of the doghouse. Pat Mahomes mostly.
Curb.
Yeah, for me, he is in the doghouse. Everyone is talking about his addition of Patrick Mahomes, but they're missing the crucial Mahomes in the picture, and that is his brother Jackson Mahomes. Both of them are big TikTokers. They are going to be focusing on their footwork on the video than actually on the game fields. So I think that's going to be a major distraction. He's already had some TikTok issues with Pittsburgh. With the two of them combined, it's going to be a nightmare, and I don't want to see it. So he's in the doghouse. I'm not looking at him.
I also think Juju's in the doghouse. I think he's great, but I just don't. I don't want anything to do with him. I think Pat Mahomes is going to be looking for Travis Kelce too much, and I honestly, I'm high on their rookie Sky Moore. I really think he's going to be good this year. I hope that he has a couple good games where he can, supplant himself ahead of some of these other guys. Valdez Scantling, we've seen him have good games every now and then when he was back on Green Bay. But I don't know if the Exxon Valdez is going to be able to support a starting role. So I don't want Juju. I'd rather take Sky Moore late in the round for the value instead of Juju, where everyone's going to see him as the next Tyreek Hill. And I think if you're looking at him like that, you are seriously mistaken.
I think you guys are underestimating the fact of like the situation he came out of. We're coming off of Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown getting out of there. Big Ben's been hobbling and stretching out his career way longer than it should have been. He hasn't had a quarterback in years. Probably the last year that he had a good year was the last year Ben Roethlisberger actually put up some decent numbers. And I think it's going to be a good change of pace. And it's Pat Mahomes, guys.
I don't know. I think he can have a year where he can be a number 2, number 3 receiver, but if you're looking at him as a number 1, you're going heavy running back and waiting for Juju Smith-Schuster because you think he's falling. I think he's falling for a reason, and I don't think he can support number 1 or even number 2 fantasy production this year. I just don't believe it.
I don't either, and I wouldn't take him there. But if you're getting if you're looking at your roster after the draft, and Juju Smith there, Juju. If Juju is your third wide receiver, I think that's a pretty good draft, depending on who the guys you have above him are.
Yeah, he might be a flex guy in my mind, but I don't know. I've never really liked him. He's a guy that I think Jesse will try to take. Team Flash. I think he's gonna see that guy and be like, okay, I'm getting Tyreek Hill in the 6th round. I'm taking him. But I'm
Can I just pose a little question? I don't know exactly off the top of my head whether ADP is, but if you had to choose, are you choosing Allen Robinson or Juju?
Oh, Allen Robinson.
I agree with that.
I definitely would like Allen Robinson. I just think that he's going to have a good year, and they're different receivers. Allen Robinson's big,
They
tall.
are different.
He's the guy you're throwing corner routes to the end zone. Juju Smith-Schuster is the guy that's catching like across the middle short stuff. So I would definitely go Allen Robinson.
If you have a good quarterback and you're not the number 1 guy, I kind of like you. Like, I think you're going to eat. I think you're going to get yours. I think there's a lot of really good corners in this league, and I think you getting that off
matchup and kind of being the second thought and not the whiteboard name guy on there. Like, I think that's good, and I think that's Allen Robinson playing behind Cooper Kupp. Like, look at the season the guy had last year. Triple crown, right?
Yeah.
Touchdowns, receiving yards, and receptions. So you gotta he's a guy on the board, and I think Allen Robinson's gonna do to kind of get his with a good quarterback in Matt Stafford. I think this situation's not as clear. I think Mecole Hardman could have a good year. Like Dennis said, Sky Moore, I'm not as familiar with him, but I do know the name, and I think he could have a good year. And Pat Mahomes, he's kind of a guy, he'll move it around. And then obviously you have Travis Kelce stealing anywhere from 5 to 10 to 20 receptions a game. So.
Yeah. All right, moving on. We'll go to a good friend of one of our co-hosts here, guy we all know about. His quads are about as big as my entire waist, which after last night's feast is quite large. So we're gonna go on to Saquon Barkley. He's been the number one guy. He's been first off the board. People want him to be that guy, but injuries. I don't know if his ACL can take the abuse that his quads put into them. So, he's kind of been in the doghouse in a lot of people's minds. I really think he has. You look at that and you just see the name. It's the name. It's like when you see Antonio Brown, it's like, oh, he could be that guy again. All he needs is to be that guy. But then you realize he's on the Giants, and the Giants suck. They really suck. And I couldn't be happier about it. I hate the Giants. They're probably my least favorite team. But Nick, I don't know if you have any inside knowledge on your good dear friend, basically a brother, Saquon Barkley. But is he in the doghouse this year, or is he going to crawl out?
First off, obviously I have the inside track.
He was texting me this morning, knowing I was coming on this podcast. Said good luck on the inaugural to the boys. And the big thing from him is this is the best he's felt in his life. So I think you got to take his word on that. He's feeling great. Yeah, he's feeling really good, and I think it could be a big bounce back season. But I told him, I said, you're still in my doghouse. He is in the doghouse for me. Biggest thing is the New York Giants, as you said. I cannot stand Daniel Jones. I think he'll have a better season if he gets sat game, 2-3 games into the season, and they go with Tyrod Taylor. I do actually like they brought in Matt Breida, so they have him as a backup, and I think they're going to ease Saquon in, and I think that's going to be a big play with the fantasy. I don't think they're going to just throw him to the wolves. I don't think they're just going to try to put the offense on his back. And a positive note, I do think Kadarius Toney, was looking good last year. Kenny Galladay, I think, will have a pretty good year. So I don't know, but I think starting the season, doghouse game one when he rushes for 220 and 2 touchdowns. We're back.
Kirby?
Yeah, I did see, or I agree with Nick. I did see that he said he was feeling the best he's felt. And, I'm a sucker for confidence. He pulled the John Wick on us and was saying that, yeah, he's thinking he's back. But in my opinion, he's just back in the doghouse. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed with the Giants situation. And until something does, yeah, I'm not going to be any more higher than I am.
Yeah, I'm fading Saquon Barkley. Most of it is strictly due to the fact that last year I had Eckler and Barkley on my fantasy team. So that is a big driving factor. It's much like how I just never draft Keenan Allen after you got to be kidding me. It doesn't matter how good you're going to do. I just don't trust you. I would trust, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I don't want to take Saquon, and I think the guys around him at the spot that he's falling, I would just put more faith into. And if I see Saquon come up, I'm probably just going to switch over to wide receiver, pick a wide receiver that I trust, and I'm just going to stay away from that. I do think he could have a great year, though. I don't think it's not his ability to play. It's his ability to stay on the field that I don't trust. If he's healthy and he's able to play 15, 16 games, he could be a monster. I mean, he's arguably one of the only guys with talent on the team. I don't trust Daniel Jones, and I don't trust Kenny Galladay. I think they're out of their mind for paying Kenny Galladay what they're paying him. It's like $45 million or something. It's a ridiculous number. He's making more than like Cooper Kupp and all these other receivers, which I don't even know where that number comes from. But I'm going to fade Saquon Barkley. He's in the doghouse for me.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing where he has all the talent in the world, but what has changed in their offense. They're not spreading the ball out more. They're still going to have to rely 100% on him to be the offense. And when he's had that weight on his shoulders year after year, his body just can't keep up with it. So yeah, I don't think anything's really changed.
Yeah.
They did have a big signing, a guard from the Colts, obviously coming off of a massive year with Jonathan Taylor. I think could help. I think that was a big reason they went out and grabbed him. But still, it's tough to feel confident in it, both with his injuries and just watching him. He's a big play guy. It's just 100% on his shoulders. It's 2-yard run after 2-yard run after 2-yard run, then unbelievable Saquon play, not team play, Saquon play. So it's tough to rely on that for the consistency that you're looking for, especially in the running back position.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on. I don't know if you guys want to talk about J.K. Dobbins. I don't really have much to say on him, so if we want to skip him, we can. You know, he was injured all of last season, so we have not much to go off of. If any of you guys have something to say on him, you can. Otherwise, we can just skip him and move on.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say out of the doghouse for me. I think you got to give him another year. It might be a little slow at first, but I think we'll see after a full season if he's someone you can rely on or not. Like you said, he looked good beginning of last year and before his injury. You can't really predict that just from a freak accident. So I'd say out of the doghouse, give him, maybe he could be a league winner if you get him, and then later in the season he just hits his stride, like he showed promise early last year. So out of the doghouse for now.
Nick, any quick words on Dobbins?
Yeah, I think we put in our nose Travis Etienne. I think it's a similar situation, good talent, but injuries and not enough information on him. Dobbins also has Mike Davis and Kenyon Drake looming behind him in his backfield, will you call it? I think both those guys are pretty solid, plug and play guys. So whether they're going to ease him into it, whether he's 100% and whatnot, I think those are the big question marks. So I think for me, it's hard not to start him in the doghouse and kind of it's on him to work his way out.
Yeah, I'm probably staying away from him. I just don't like ACL tears with running backs. It's something I try to avoid, especially with the unknowns. We haven't even seen a season from him. I'm just gonna keep him in the doghouse, in the doghouse, and I'll probably try to look for other people. All right, moving on. Jesse, this one's for you. You know, Team Flash, a guy that I know you probably drafted first overall last year. I don't really remember. Maybe it was 2 years ago. But CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think he's been a disappointment. I don't think that you see him coming in. You're like, oh, this is going to be that typical running back that we see for Kansas City. He's going to do all these things, and I don't think he has lived up to the name. So Kirby, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, doghouse or out?
Yeah, it's still doghouse for me. I think his only saving grace is that he's on a high-powered offense that can get him to maybe the goal line pretty frequently, and he can kind of get some touchdown points. But I as a pure runner, I'm not high on him, and I would try to avoid him as well.
Nick?
Yeah, 100% doghouse. I don't think he's ever proven anything. The only thing he's ever had is hype. Like Kirby said, the high-powered offense, that's the only thing you can hang your hat on, but he is in they have a stable of running backs. They have Jerick McKinnon, who we've seen have good years for the 49ers. They have Ronald Jones III, who's coming off some good seasons with Tom Brady and the Bucs. And then they use a draft pick on Isaiah Pacheco, who the rumors are that they're very high on. So how much will Clyde Edwards-Helaire even play? And what will his performance be? It hasn't been much ever. So doghouse.
Yeah, I mean, just to add, like, how can someone not be in the doghouse where 2 years ago they were consensus first round pick, and now they have fallen to, I don't know, running back 40 or 30s, and just based on performance alone, not no changes, just
no injuries,
based on no injuries, just on performance, and so that's the definition of a resident doghouse. He can get a timeshare with me.
Yeah, I mean, his numbers say it all. 1,320 yards, rushing 426 yards, receiving 8 touchdowns, 8 rushing touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns. And those numbers that I just said are over 2 years, not one. So those numbers in 1 year probably wouldn't even be enough to make him a running back I want to get. 238 total fantasy points in 2 years. People get that in 1 year as a running back. So I am absolutely not looking at him. He had 4 good games last year, and for the spot you're taking him, that's just not going to cut it for me. So I couldn't be any further away from him. I hope that Jesse listens to this after he drafts. I hope he takes a bunch of Clyde Edwards-Helaire in all of his things. Knowing him, he'll probably listen to this right after he drafts. So that's who I'm saying the leading rusher on the Chiefs is going to be Mahomes. That's just what I'm going with.
No chance Jesse listens to this. Maybe 5 minutes. Couple skip throughs and that's it.
Yeah, we're at an hour and 10 minutes now. He's going to see that and just be like, this can't be worth my time.
As Nick said, it's just way better value to on your second or last pick go Tyler Pacheco than than middle draft CEH. So
at first I thought you were just having a Kirby moment, right? Moving on, we're gonna go to segment number 3 now. This is the "Were You Drunk" segment. We are going to
Dennis,
yes.
I think I sent a note to Kirby. We can edit this out, but I think we should skip this, save it for next week after our draft, so we can poke fun at people who pick things that we don't disagree with. And
Okay.
we're already running long.
Yeah,
so
yeah, I like it. I forgot we added a 4th segment, so I agree. Let's just skip it. We don't even need to edit it out. This is a pilot. All right, we're gonna move on to our 3rd segment now. Something that a lot of people wonder. It was a big question at the wedding. Um, have you heard of it? Have you not heard of it? Have you created it? Have you been a victim of it? It's the 3 orgasms, and I myself, unbeknowingly said that. Well, of course I know what the 3 orgasms is. I invented the 3rd one. Nick, you want to just tell your little story, and we'll go on it for there. So, what are the 3 orgasms, Nick? If for anyone in the audience that hasn't heard of it, which anyone listening to this has 100% heard of it, but we're gonna do it anyway.
yeah, so Dennis, obviously he invented the 3rd. We'll use him. And Dennis knows it well. So obviously there's the 3 orgasms. The first one's the positive orgasm. Oh yes, oh yes. The second one is the holy orgasm. Oh God, oh God. And the third and final orgasm is the fake orgasm. Oh Dennis, oh Dennis.
Yeah. So for this segment, we're gonna pick 3 players. 2 of them are gonna be players that we like. One of them is gonna be the fake orgasm, and we're gonna discuss. So the first 3 players we're gonna do: Travis Etienne, J.K. Dobbins, Elijah Mitchell. Kirby, who are the 2 guys you want, and who's the orgasm? Who's the fake orgasm?
The first 2 are the real. Elijah Mitchell is the fake.
Well, why don't you like Elijah Mitchell?
It's the same thing. I especially with Trey Lance now stealing some rushes. I don't think with that, as well as Elijah Mitchell with his injury history, I think he was a flash in the past. He was a great 1-year pickup when no one really knew who he was, but I do not trust him handling any sort of rushing workload. His body is too small, and he already has a history with injuries. I know Dobbins does as well, but that's just one injury. And I think he could have a bounce back year.
Nick, who's your fake orgasm?
Mine is J.K. Dobbins. I don't like his injury, as we've discussed. I don't. I think if you're talking stealing rushing attempts, I don't think Trey Lance is the guy you want to talk about. I think Lamar Jackson is the guy you want to talk about. I think he's proven time and time again he can rush the ball. They trust him to throw it, and they design runs for him. So I think with the injury, issues and all that, I like Travis Etienne. I like the Jaguars kind of taking that step up this year, and then I do like Elijah Mitchell. Like I said early on in this podcast, I like the 49ers. I like their offense. I think you got to trust that team and trust the decision makers that they have. So I think J.K. Dobbins is my 3rd orgasm.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the same. I think J.K. Dobbins is the biggest fake orgasm that we've ever seen. Travis Etienne, I think, is going to be great. You're comparing Travis Etienne and J.K. Dobbins, two guys both similarly missed time last year, the entire season, due to an injury. But I just trust Travis Etienne to be the guy that we saw when he was in college. All last season it was Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne is going to be great. He's going to be that workhorse, and I really think he is. I am pretty high on Jacksonville this year. I really think that Sunshine's going to come out and have a spectacular second season. I am high on the starting receiver for Jacksonville. I really, really think Kirk, is that who it is going to have a big year. Um, and Elijah Mitchell, I think the 49ers are going to do great this year. I really do. They think that they're Super Bowl contenders. Whenever you have that kind of thought in your mind, it's, now or never. If this is the year that we think we're going to do it, we're going to put all of our faith into our tried and trues. I think Elijah Mitchell is going to be the guy that can get you pretty consistently 10, 12 points a week to be that number 2, number 3 running back that you have. I don't trust J.K. Dobbins, mostly because I don't even know what his first name is. So how can I trust a guy that his first name is J.K.? Just kidding. I don't think I can put a guy like that in. So yeah, I'm fake orgasming on him, and I'm gonna go with the real orgasms: Travis Etienne and Elijah Mitchell.
I mean, just to add, before J.K. Dobbins was hurt, the last 4 games, or sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games of the 2020 season, he had over 12 points a game with a high of 28 and about an average of say like 14. Elijah Mitchell last year was his first year. He missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games of the entire season, and now is already questionable, going into this year. So that's just to take that for a grain of salt. I know it's kind of stat picking for my JK or Elijah Mitchell pick. I just don't trust him that he can be consistently healthy. I'll give a guy with a one-time injury a pass.
Yeah, I mean, Elijah Mitchell, you're talk about games, but look at his stats. It's 11 games. He has almost 5 yards a carry, 963 yards, and 5 touchdowns.
It's pretty solid.
Definitely on the field for sure, but yeah, J.K. Dobbins has not proved that he can stay on the field either. Might be a flash in the pan, but kind of the same thing. Also, going back to the stats of, it doesn't seem like Etienne's in the conversation for either of you guys as not being part of this, but another guy, his backup, James Robinson, averaged 4.7 yards a carry as well, being the main guy. So, you're feeling a guy that they're saying is more skilled and better suited for their offense and look pretty good.
Yeah, I think he's going to be better than James Robinson this year. I really don't think. If you're looking at James Robinson, you're hoping for a Travis Etienne injury, and without that injury, I think Travis is going to be better than all three of these, all the best of the three.
James Robinson could, if there is that injury, James Robinson could be a big fab guy.
Oh yeah. You want to spend at least 99% of your budget on him. Going on. 3 receivers that I like all these guys, but I do think one of them stands out less than the other 2. We're going to go with Mike Evans, DJ Moore, T. Higgins. Nick, you want to describe who you think is the fake orgasm out of this wide receiver trio?
I do agree. I like all 3 of them, and with that kind of notion, I think Mike Evans to me is my third orgasm. He's my fake gasm. I'm pretty high on Carolina. I think DJ Moore is going to have a massive year. I think if Baker's healthy, I think he's going to have a big year. I think people forget he's a solid quarterback.
He's definitely an upgrade for their team, and DJ Moore's kind of I feel like has always got his. I like him, and I think Jamar Chase is going to have a step back year. I think people are going to focus on him more. They're going to watch the film. They're going to figure that combo out a little bit better. Still think he's going to perform, but T. Higgins is a big guy, big-bodied guy, and I think he's going to continue to see touchdown targets as well as big play potential. Mike Evans, rumors out of the camp, Julio Jones is really clicking well with Tom Brady. Mike Evans has always been a big-body red zone threat. That's what Julio Jones is. I think you're going to see Julio Jones not have a massive fantasy year, but have a big touchdown year. And I think the biggest sufferer for that is going to be Mike Evans as far as potential points.
Kirby?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I agree 100%. DJ Moore, I think it's only good things for him. Major quarterback upgrade from Sam Darnold or whoever it was last year, and he still performs. Now I think we have Baker, who's going to likes to throw the ball, can make plays happen. So I'm high on DJ. T Higgins, I pat myself on the back. I think he was a steal of the draft last year. No one really knew the sophomore receiver that he was, and scooped him up and led me to a championship. His chemistry with Joe Burrow only got better as the year went on. I think he's going to have another good year, especially with like the focus on Jamar Chase and the Mike Evans. If there is any question of Tom Brady falling off a cliff, it's not going to be his probably ability to be a decent quarterback. It's just his ability to kind of hit a receiver like a Mike Evans, which has with Julio just kind of cloudy is his ability. And I think if Chris Godwin's healthy, he's going to be Tom's go-to guy.
Just for the sake of argument.
Just want to jump in there and confirm. T. Higgins led you to a championship loss, correct?
Championship appearance.
Loss.
Tomato.
Appearance is synonymous with loss, because otherwise it'd be win.
It's how you frame it.
Stock T. Higgins.
T. Higgins tearing his ACL. My fake orgasm this year, and like I said, I really like all these guys. I think if you have any of them on your team, you're going to be solid. I'm going with T. Higgins, though. I hate to say it. Mike Evans, he's been like the most consistent player in the history of wide receivers. He's like a top 3 fantasy receiver every single year, even with guys like Chris Godwin in the back taking up targets from him. We've had tons of good receivers come through there, and Mike Evans never fails. He always puts up massive numbers. I think he just is a target hog in the red zone. Julio Jones, I think he might take some of those, but I don't know if I can trust Julio Jones to stay on the field for an entire season. The guy's not as trustworthy to me as a guy like Mike Evans, who year after year he plays almost every single game. He doesn't get hurt, and I really think he's going to have a good year this year. I don't ever see Tom Brady fall off. We've already had that discussion. DJ Moore. DJ Moore is one of my favorite players this year. I've been burned by him before. I forget what happened, if it was an injury or just like a bad year, but I really think he's going to thrive this year with Baker Mayfield. They've already named him the starter. He's a guy that I look for in a lot of my drafts. I think that he is a perfect spot for that pick where he falls around the guys that he's around. And I would actually take him ahead of his ADP personally. I think DJ Moore could be a top 10 fantasy receiver this year without a question. And T Higgins, much of this has to do with Kirby's confidence year 2. I think Kirby's going to draft him probably first overall. Really try to ride this guy high. I think he can be good, but I don't know if I trust the Bengals to be what they were last year. Joe Burrow, he had a fantastic year, but it's like Nick said, are they going to be watching the film, trying to shut this down? People kind of slept on the Bengals. I know I slept on them. I didn't think the Bengals were going to be in the Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? But I think this year they're going to treat him as a real threat. They're going to be on Jamar Chase. They're going to be on Joe Burrow. They're going to lock him down, Joe Mixon. I think that T. Higgins is going to be a solid option, but I don't think of the 3 he's going to finish higher than Mike Evans or DJ Moore. So he will be my fake orgasm. OT.
I mean, just to chime in, you were banging, the same beat last year as well regarding the Bengals. Joe Mixon was in your doghouse because he burned you the year before, and Joe Mixon had a great, fantastic year last year, and in addition to T. Higgins, in addition to Jamar Chase. So yeah, maybe there will be some sort of offensive regression for the Bengals, but I still think they have the talent and can put up the numbers we want.
I agree completely. I'm speaking strictly in terms of these 3 players. I don't think T. Higgins is going to have a terrible year. I think he's a great fantasy option. He's a great number 2 receiver that you can get on your team. If I had to pick one that I don't think is going to be better than these other guys, I think I'm picking T. Higgins. I don't know. I like Mike Evans, and I love DJ Moore.
Yeah, I think circling back on just kind of to hammer in my Mike Evans point, I think we all agree we like all 3 of them, but Russell Gage added to Tampa Bay Buccaneers, coming over from the Falcons, who was, flashes of really good play, especially filling in while, the gambler is out. And they have Cameron Brate, obviously a little bit stepped down from Gronk, but Gronk wasn't who he was. And they also had Kyle Rudolph, who's a great offensive threat. We've seen Tom Brady run 2 tight end sets for years here in New England very successfully. So those are big-bodied guys. And speaking on the Julio Jones, another big-bodied guy, but speaking on his injury thing, I don't think he's playing a lot. I think he's going to be kind of a change of pace guy to throw out there, and then mix in a lot of red zone looks. And I think that's where the biggest impact on Mike Evans. I think he's still going to have a fantastic year, super steady. But I think as far as those guys, if you're looking at
Trending, I think Mike Evans is going to be that slight bit trend down.
Yeah, I mean, you might be right. If Julio Jones can stay fresh and only come in the red zone, he might just be a target hog. And the guy's massive. He's a freaking robot.
Yeah,
so
I see him in third down situations in red zone. Maybe I'm wrong, but
yeah, maybe
Yeah,
that's his problem. He's been the star for too long.
That's why I have 0 championships. So
All right, moving on to the last one. For me, this one's easy. I'll start this one off. It's going to be between Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson. I think it's no question who it's going to be in my mind, and it's Aaron Rodgers. I don't trust the receiving core that he has. I think that Alan Lizard, is going to be pretty decent this year. I think that he's a great pick for fantasy where he falls, but I don't know if Aaron Rodgers, is the Tom Brady for Green Bay. I don't know if he can stay healthy. I don't know if he's put as much money into reversing age as Tom Brady has. He definitely did not um, perform like John Wick, even though he looked like him last year. I mean, he's good every year. Don't get me wrong. Aaron Rodgers is going to throw for 4,500 yards. It's just what he does. But I don't know if the touchdowns are going to come down. I don't know if he can even play the full season. I much rather would think a guy like Aaron Rodgers is going to get hurt than I would a Tom Brady, who is pretty much 95% plastic, and plastic just don't break. I think Tom Brady's going to have a fantastic year. Obviously, a lot of this comes from me loving the guy, but his stats prove it. I mean, last 3 or 4 years he's improved. You can't make this kind of stuff up. It's history in the making. He's an all-time great. He does the things in the off season that keep him fresh. He loves his team. He's a student of the game. He knows so much about his teammates, and they respect him. And I just think that he's going to have a fantastic year. And Russell Wilson, man, I am high on this guy this year. I don't know what it is.
Mile High,
just,
some would say.
yeah, maybe it's just him in the orange that
life, baby.
it matches my hair color, and we have a thing like that. My hair color and my son's hair color. We're Team Orange over here, though. Stevens are Team Orange. We love Russell Wilson. High on Cortland Sutton. High on Jerry Jeudy. I'm excited to see them this year, and I definitely think that Russell Wilson is going to have a fantastic year. A breath of fresh air on this new team. So yeah, it's going to be Aaron for me. Aaron Rodgers fake orgasm. Nick?
Yeah.
Or
No,
Kirby?
sorry.
I'll jump in. I think it's hard to sit there and say that someone, that ayahuasca is not getting your mind right before the season. I mean, this drug is revolutionary, and it is 100% putting this guy on the new level. This guy's galaxy brain, left, right, and center. It's also interesting, you get a little bit of student debt, forgiven. All of a sudden, Dennis is against the one guy who's not vaccinated in the league. It's just crazy the turnaround for my co-host over here.
I'm riding with Biden.
This guy is riding with Biden like I've never seen. Top down, gas prices don't matter. Although I do have to say that I do agree. I am high on Russell Wilson. I think Tom Brady's a man who needs no introduction. And if we're talking orgasms, he's definitely not the fake one. Aaron Rodgers, I don't think the heart's in it. I think he's flirted with the retirement. I think the guy's halfway into the game of Jeopardy. He doesn't. He's a competitor for sure, but I just don't think his heart's fully into it. And I think when you're getting up in age, that's going to be the fall off if you're not into it. And then you add in the weapons. He does have Randall Cobb back, but is that going to be enough? Sammy Watkins hasn't really shown anything, even with someone a top 10, top 3 caliber quarterback that is Patrick Mahomes. He didn't really do as much, and I think the Lizard is just unproven. So I do think, all jokes aside, Aaron Rodgers is the fake gasm here.
Kirby?
Well, I mean, some preseason rumors is that in the Brady household, Giselle is not happy and that they had a major fight that he decided to go back. So Giselle, maybe Brady's figured out that Giselle was the one doing the little fake orgasms. So that's in his head now. He doesn't know if he should play or not. Maybe that will impact his season where, he's thinking of the home front and if the oh yes was really, yes, or if it was just no Tom. And so it's not just an ability thing. Maybe as he's playing the games, he's questioning if it's worth going back home for himself to be in the doghouse every day at 45 years old. He should be getting to the point where he can kick back and relax. But now he's in the doghouse after everything's provided. So that could impact him. That being said, I still can never bet against my boy Tom. I do think Aaron Rodgers is the fake. The weapons aren't there, and he's looking for his next mushroom trip down in Costa Rica with Danica Patrick. So I think he's kind of just riding the wave. He enjoys the game, but he's not taking it too serious. So whatever happens, happens. I think he will be the fake.
I think you're looking for Cheyenne Woodley or whatever her name is. Dude,
No,
that's like two good girlfriends ago.
No. He went in he literally said his best time of his life was a mushroom trip in Costa Rica with Danica Patrick, where they found themselves, and then that's when they decided to break up because they were both going on like different spiritual journeys, different paths.
Mousetrap Kirby. This is a football podcast, fantasy football podcast, not Stars Weekly. All right.
Yeah,
Okay,
Jesus.
People
Entertainment
Magazine
news.
People Magazine has a place in this. Okay, off-season bans is important,
Jesus Christ.
especially for quarterbacks that are notorious divas.
All right, I think we're at a pretty good stopping point now. I don't know if you guys want to add anything. I know we talked about maybe some predictions for this year's fantasy, but I think we can actually cover that in the next episode. Talk about who did well in the draft, talk about who we think came out on top. Unless you guys want to talk about who you think is going to do well before the draft happens. I don't know. I think we're at a good spot that we can stop this thing.
Yeah, I'm scared of Titus. I think he's going to be riding this Dolphins wave. It scares me a little bit. I think he's been right there. I think he's had a couple key injuries over the years. It's kind of kept him off the trophy. I am worried about him. And then two, I'm extremely worried with Novak in the draft. You remove some of his bad kicking picks, and he could have some serious teams.
Yep.
That I don't think there's a rule change that
helps him
this
more.
guy he can't draft a kicker and Robbie Gould in the 6th round. So this is gonna be
Justin Tucker.
I don't know. I'm worried.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit worried as well, just because last week Dennis and I kind of chatted fantasy strategy, listened to the same kind of resources that formed some of our opinions. We have a very similar strategy, and I do think with that strategy, if you have someone following your footsteps, doing the exact same thing, it can add a lot of risk. Because if you're picking the same guys, you're kind of left with people that you not necessarily didn't really want. So that's kind of scary. The commish is always. I always seem to draft near him, and it's always kind of a battle of who's going to get what. And then there's like Nick said, all the other variables, which some people I'm not too worried about, but others, they're always right there. Tom seems to be on a real uptick, trending up lately, obviously with his last year win, but he's always seemed to be getting better and better each year. So it should be a good one.
Yeah, I think that one of me or you needs to switch their decision on what to draft, and seeing as how you made an appearance, which is also synonymous for loss in the fantasy championship last year, I think you have more reason to switch up your draft strategy and allow me to make the king team. But that's just my saying. I think my biggest fear this year is I'm going to say Colby. I'm going to say Colby. I think her rage knows no bounds from years ago when we said, sorry, we're all single men and Mike's the only one with a girlfriend and we're all playing the field. We're just going to keep this guys only. I think she's, of the females, she was the only one that I heard at the bachelor's or at the wedding say, I have some research to do this year. And I think she'll do her research. I know she's played fantasy before, so I'm worried about losing twice to Colby in a year and having to hand that trophy over to her, whatever it may be.
Yeah, Colby definitely has over the years has definitely. I think she may have some cahoots with Matthew Barry and everything, and may have them in her ear while she drafts because she's been waiting for this moment for years for her revenge to take it out on us. So that's scary. But the one person I would not sleep on, not to shout out our fancy app sleeper, but I wouldn't sleep on Anna, the girl that cares the least. No effort involved in our other league, our roommate league. She's made the championship twice. So I don't know how it happens. She basically auto drafts. I guess the computer is smarter than her, but she could be a sleeper in there. The one you least expect to make it could do it.
Since Kirby's going to plug his fiance and get himself out of future doghouses, I feel it only necessary that I plug my next contender in there, Liv. I think that I think that she has a lot of competition with me, and the last thing she would want to do is lose to me. I think she's gonna steal all of my draft picks ahead of me just to like spite me, because that's the kind of person she is from a loving standpoint. And I really think she is going to do great. She looks great. I couldn't be more happy with the things that she's doing.
Tape just ended. Got to cut.
Nick, do you want to selflessly plug someone before this thing gets over?
I think I'm gonna pass on that. It's all out warrior at the Courier household. Love does no bounds. The bounds are fantasy football. There will be blood here. It'll likely be mine, but I got the hotline. So when in stress, I got the phone a friend online just in case. But I was gonna bring this up at the beginning, but I didn't want to, undermine my own knowledge of fantasy football. But just dicks on the table here, boys. How many? Just a rough estimate. How many mock drafts have you guys done?
I'd probably
Kirby, what do you
say
hear?
plus 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I saw more than that in your phone.
It's I lose count because you got to scroll so many times.
Yeah.
A bad accounting on the move. I mean, I even tried to do some of the live mock drafts on ESPN, and we can you have to wait 10 minutes and get a lobby of real people, but it's just not fast enough. So I just go back to the computer just to feel good about myself.
I did my first one last night laying in bed. It went well.
I'll tell you what, you always feel good after a computer mock draft, so I'm sure the real draft will be nothing like that. All right, so yeah, that's our pilot episode. We'll be back next week, hopefully, if we can find some time to do a week 1 podcast. So, guys, thanks for coming on. I feel like that was productive, and I look forward to the future.
Yeah, I think we all are very excited for 8 hours of commercial-free football. So let's get it on.
All right, see ya.
Hanson out.